In the early 20th century, Paris witnessed a catastrophic event known as the Flood of the Century. It was an event that would go down in history, as relentless rains during the summer and fall of 1910 transformed the iconic city into a surreal version of Venice. Streets that were once bustling with horse-drawn carriages and pedestrians became canals, with boats becoming the only means of transportation for thousands of stranded Parisians. Entire neighborhoods were evacuated as the city found itself submerged under water. Infrastructure buckled under the pressure, with buildings flooded, power lines down, and train tracks submerged. Engineers were forced to build makeshift wooden walkways, allowing Parisians to navigate the streets while the water levels rose steadily around them. The flood lasted for 2 grueling months, resulting in the evacuation of thousands and the loss of at least 5 lives. In one of the most unusual effects of this disaster, all the clocks in Paris stopped at exactly 10:53, adding to the eerie atmosphere that enveloped the city. The stoppage of the clocks was not merely symbolic of nature halting time itself, but also highlighted the fragility of the city's intricate timekeeping system. Before the end of the 19th century, keeping time in Paris was no simple task. Mechanical clocks, though impressive by contemporary standards, frequently drifted out of sync. People who lived and worked in Paris found it nearly impossible to be punctual. Being on time for a business meeting, catching a train, or coordinating with others in different parts of the city was a challenge. While there were tower bells that chimed every hour, city dwellers wanted more precision as the demands of urban life grew. They longed for exact timekeeping, down to the nearest minute. In response to this growing need for accuracy, an innovative solution appeared during the Paris exhibition of 1878. 2 Austrian engineers, V. Antoine Popp and his colleague Rai, introduced an extraordinary invention, pneumatic clocks. These clocks, which were initially installed in Vienna, were remarkable for their ability to work using compressed air instead of electricity. The clocks were placed in prominent public buildings and even attached to lamp posts in busy streets. For a full year, they functioned flawlessly, catching the attention of Parisian authorities, who decided to implement this cutting-edge system in their own city. The Paris municipal government authorized the engineers to install pneumatic clocks across the city. Soon, these clocks became ubiquitous, visible in hotels, train stations, schools, homes, and on public streets. The clocks were powered not by electricity, but by an intricate network of underground pipes that delivered compressed air. A central station controlled the flow of air, sending a pulse through iron pipes every minute. This synchronized all of Paris's clocks, ensuring that the entire city would stay in perfect time. The pneumatic clock system was not only revolutionary but also more economical and reliable than electrical systems of the time. Its mechanism was elegantly simple. A spring or weight inside each clock provided energy, which was released with the help of gravity to spin the clock's wheel. A pendulum-like device ensured that the gears moved at the correct pace. By adjusting the length of the pendulum, the clock's time could be sped up or slowed down. The heart of this system was the Paris master clock, which served 2 crucial functions. One side of the clock displayed the time, while the other controlled the pulses of compressed air that synchronized clocks throughout the city. The master clock remained accurate by relying on another highly precise clock located at the Paris Observatory, which was updated daily through star observations. This allowed the master clock to regulate the flow of air with pinpoint precision. Perhaps one of the most impressive aspects of the pneumatic clock system was its ability to reset itself automatically. A small pipe connected to the master clock pumped compressed air back into pistons, which lifted the levers attached to the clock mechanisms, resetting everything in a smooth, cyclical motion. The air from the master clock branched into 10 main pipes that extended throughout the city, snaking through tunnels beneath the streets of Paris, covering hundreds of miles from the sewage system to the metro tunnels. It could take up to a full minute for the pressure wave to reach the clocks in the farthest corners of the city, but once the air arrived, the clocks remained astonishingly accurate. The clocks themselves were simple yet brilliant. The minute hand was attached to a gear with exactly 60 teeth, corresponding to the 60 minutes in an hour. When the air pulse arrived, it inflated the bellows inside the clock. As the bellows puffed up, they pushed a rod upward, which in turn moved the gear one tooth forward. A tiny weight ensured that the gear remained in place until the next air pulse arrived. This mechanism ensured that each clock moved forward by precisely 1 minute, keeping the entire city in sync. Not only was this system highly effective for public clocks, but it also became accessible to private citizens. For a small fee, equivalent to 30 cents a day in today's currency, people could have a pneumatic clock installed in their own homes. This widespread availability made pneumatic clocks a popular choice for Parisian households. The system worked flawlessly for years, but it faced its greatest challenge in 1910, during the infamous flood. Parisians had long used the statue of a soldier at the Alma Bridge to measure the height of the Seine River. When the water reached the soldiers' feet, it was a sign to close the river. But in 1910, the water rose all the way to the soldiers' shoulders, the highest level ever recorded. The floodwaters overwhelmed the city's compressed air plant, causing all the clocks to stop at exactly 10:53. While engineers eventually managed to repair the system, the pneumatic clocks became obsolete in the following years as more accurate mechanical and electric clocks took over. Despite this, the pneumatic clock system continued to operate for more than 15 years after the flood, providing a fascinating glimpse into the technological ingenuity of the time. Although pneumatic clocks are no longer in use today, remnants of the system can still be found around Paris. If you look closely, you can spot old clock faces and traces of the underground pipes that once kept the city in perfect synchronization. The pneumatic clock system stands as a testament to humanity's ongoing quest to master time. However, the quest for accurate timekeeping stretches far beyond 19th century Paris. Long before the advent of mechanical clocks, ancient civilizations tracked time using natural cycles. Archaeologists have uncovered bones and stones etched with marks that likely correspond to lunar cycles, dating back as far as 20,000 years. As agricultural societies began to emerge, the need for a more reliable system of timekeeping became essential for organizing planting and harvesting cycles. By around 5,000 years ago, ancient civilizations such as the Babylonians and Egyptians had developed sophisticated calendars based on the solar day, lunar month, and solar year. These calendars helped synchronize human activities with the rhythms of nature. For example, in the region near the equator, lunar cycles played a more significant role than the changing seasons. However, in regions farther north, where agriculture was critical, societies focused more on the solar year. The Roman Empire, too, had a keen interest in timekeeping, developing a calendar that was primarily based on the solar year. The Egyptians, on the other hand, used a civil calendar with 12 months of 30 days each, and they added 5 extra days at the end of the year to align their calendar with the solar cycle. Additionally, the Egyptians divided their day into temporal hours, which varied in length depending on the season. The evolution of timekeeping took a significant leap forward with the invention of mechanical clocks in the late 13th century. These early clocks were driven by weights and were initially created to help the church keep track of service times. The term clock comes from the Latin word cloca, meaning bell, because these early timekeepers rang bells to mark the passing of hours. Despite the advancements in clock technology, there was no universal agreement on when to start counting the hours. Different regions adopted different systems, such as Italian hours, which began at sunset, and Babylonian hours, which started at sunrise. It wasn't until later that the concept of splitting the day into two 12-hour periods, beginning at midnight, became widely accepted. This system, known as French hours, laid the foundation for modern timekeeping. By the late 17th century, the introduction of the pendulum clock revolutionized timekeeping, making it possible to measure time with unprecedented accuracy, down to the minute and second. At Wave's Discovery, we explore the fascinating history of timekeeping and the remarkable innovations that have shaped our understanding of time. From ancient methods of tracking the sun and moon to the complex systems of pneumatic clocks in Paris, humanity's journey to measure time is a story of ingenuity and progress. Today, as we rely on highly accurate electronic devices to tell the time, it is worth remembering the incredible systems that came before, systems that, like the pneumatic clocks of Paris, were once considered marvels of their age.